Most people want a beautiful body, but they don't want to hit the gym. They don't want to eat right. They don't want to get to sleep, but they're like, why can't I have a beautiful body? It's the same thing with a relationship. Your relationship takes a lot of hard work.
Everyone wants the dream, but nobody talks about the cost. Lost friends, sleepless nights, immigration battles, and 1,000 silent sacrifices no one claps for.
We as a society have every single means to be able to have connection with other human beings, and we're the most disconnected society that's ever existed.
Jason Magar paid it all. And in this episode, he counts every receipt. This isn't motivation, it's reality.
The difference between a good marriage and a bad marriage is this much. Most people will ask me, how do you marry the right person? And I'm like, that's an easy answer. You have to become the right person.
Should we talk about the Simon Sinek video? Is that important?
Yeah, let's talk about Simon Sinek video.
We were talking on the phone where we got cut off, how he said trust is gained in asking for help, not helping somebody else. And then you were going to go somewhere with that.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the coolest comments through that video. They're talking about friendship. And most people think that you gain trust by giving to others, doing something for others. But to truly show vulnerability and the willingness to be open, you have to say, I need help. And that's what lets your friends know that you're really available, that you're there, and that you're authentic. Because if all you do is help somebody and they can't give back or they don't get anything from you, then there's no real level of vulnerability, and it doesn't say you can trust me. It says you can rely on me if I help you, but it doesn't say you can trust me. If I ask you for help, like I did, now you know that I'm trustworthy because I'm willing to be vulnerable and say, I don't know everything.
What have you experienced with people that you've noticed have tendencies to not want to be vulnerable up front? What do you have to walk them through? What is usually the first step to like get that unlocked, to feel more comfortable asking for help?
Well, I think as kids, we're taught right off that being vulnerable is bad. Mom, I spilt this milk. What's wrong with you? I was vulnerable to my mom. Hey, I spilt the milk. She said, what's wrong with me? Right there, she's taught me that being vulnerable is bad. And most of our parents do it inadvertently. They're not trying to tell us that being vulnerable is bad. They're upset because you spilled the milk. Now they got something else they got to do that they didn't plan on. So from early on in childhood, we learn that being vulnerable is a bad thing. And our amygdala in our brain treats everything as I'm going to die until it realizes we're not. Its whole function is for fight, flight, or freeze. And it first freezes, and then it decides, do we need to fight or flight? And in doing so, our amygdala is really good at keeping us alive, but it's really bad at running day-to-day operations or doing life. So from an early age, we're taught vulnerability is bad. And then we go through stages of relationships. We break up. Hey, I was vulnerable. That person hurt me. It reinforces that vulnerability is bad. So when you get to the point of an adult, and especially for men, we're taught asking for help is weakness. And for me as a man to say to somebody else, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't have it, that's me being genuine and real and saying, I'm exposing myself to you for the ability to hurt me because I've told you I don't know everything.
Where is the amygdala in the brain?
Down here.
In the back?
It's the lowest functioning part of the brain.
What is like if we think of the black box and white box analogy, and if saying, hey, you spilled the milk, like what's wrong with you is black, what would white sound like as a parent?
Oh, honey, you spilled the milk. That happens. Let me help you clean it up.
And then what do you think? Do you feel like it's just a lack of understanding of what they're saying, or do you feel like most people actually intend to evoke fear with that?
I think most parents don't even know that they're doing that. When it comes to parenting, you do what you know. And as a parent, we have emotions, we have vulnerabilities. We're in the middle of something. You're trying to get this, the phone's ringing, this is happening, and all of a sudden the kid spills the milk. I don't think there's an intent to teach your child that vulnerability is bad. I think it's an accidental or not even conscious thought. You're frustrated. You just react in the emotion that you react in because you're angry. You're frustrated. You have to do something else. So we're taught things inadvertently when our parents have no idea that they're doing it. And if you're a parent, you have to be very intentional in making the decision how I'm going to react to my child. And most of us as parents, when our kids cry, we try to rush them through it because we want to make them okay. When we do that, we rob them the ability to feel their emotions. So we tell kids, don't feel what you feel. Hurry up, you'll be okay. Mom, I just hurt myself. Yeah, you'll be all right. Let me put a Band-Aid on it. Move on. We don't attend to the emotional need and teach the child that it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to feel what you feel. And that shuts children down. So as adults, especially with addiction, it's the ability to feel nothing. Because we just continually go through the process of being told, as a boy, my dad told me, don't cry. Men don't cry. So I grew up my life thinking that if I cried, I'm not a man. And my dad's intention was not to teach me I'm not a man. His intention was to try to prepare me for what life would look like. Because if I'm a man walking around crying, people are going to be like, whoa, what's wrong with that guy? Well, if God didn't want me to cry, he wouldn't have given me tear ducts. And I tell people that tears are just pain leaving your body, and it has to go somewhere. Either you keep it inside or you let it come out through a tear, and it's okay to cry. But I think the hardest part of being a husband, a father, a friend is the ability to be intentional. I have to make a decision every single time that something happens. What do I want to do and what do I value? If I value me and my inconvenience, I'm going to hurt those I love. If I choose to stop and go, wow, I'm frustrated, but my wife meant no ill will by that. My daughter did not intentionally make a mess to make me mad. So I stop, I think about it, and then I engage. If we take a pause in most things in life, we can make the right decision, but most of us just don't pause. We just blast through, feel the emotion, and you get what you get. Don't throw a fit. But that's the hard part of life, I think, is just choosing to be intentional in everything that you do.
I wanted to ask you before we go into the book stuff. I brought up the point of what we got from the part I've watched of that video so far. What did you take away from it, other than that quote we both expanded on?
Well, my first thought was Simon's data relationships. I don't want you competing in my area because I have the utmost respect for him. You know that. I push everybody to watch him. He is, as I think Trevor said, one of the greatest thinkers of our time. And I truly love when I can listen to somebody that I feel not as intelligent as. So I really enjoy listening to him. But I think it was really a cool concept, especially when he talked about when the man told him, I love you. And he was taken by that a little bit. And then he started doing it to his friends and watching how they respond. And I was talking with Angel about it, and none of her family said, I love you or hugged each other until Angel moved out and started doing that. And now all of her family says, I love you. And they actually hug. And it's really cool when you're intentional. I think that also shows vulnerability, especially as a man, to say, I love you. That's not a comfortable thing to do. And I was talking to somebody yesterday in counseling about it. And he's like, I don't know if I can do that. And I'm like, try it. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. So I really think it's cool if we think about friendships. How many times in your life have you stopped and said, am I a good friend? That video made me say, am I a good friend? I don't know the answer. I think I do a lot of what they talked about. I think a lot of it really aligned with my philosophies. So when I was listening, I'm like, good. I'm glad that there's other thinkers that think the same way and view friendship that way. But I view friendship just as a relationship, because everything in our life is a relationship. You and I are in a relationship right now. Adam and I are in a relationship, and he doesn't even know it. When I go into Starbucks and I want to place an order, I'm now in relationship with the person that's taking my order. I'm also a burden. And most people, when they come in for counseling, they say, I don't want to be a burden. Like, I'm going to break your heart. You're already a burden. And my wife is a burden. My daughter, huge burden. And she and I have had a conversation about it. She's like, what, Daddy? I'm a burden? I said, yeah, baby. I said, but you're a burden I choose. If you're in relationship, it requires something of you. I'm burdened when my daughter wants to go to McDonald's on the way to school. I'm like, I got meetings, I got this. I'm like, you are totally burdening me right now. But you know what? I love you and I'm willing to sacrifice. And I think the cool thing they said too was one of his, Trevor's friends told him, when you sacrifice something, put a name to it. And I can name a lot of my sacrifices because I'm willing to do that. I learned later in life, the world doesn't revolve around me. I'm not the center of the universe. And I changed my philosophy from what can I take from this world to what gives me the right to take up the oxygen that somebody else could be taking up. If this world is no better because I've been here, my life was a waste. So I decided early on in our marriage, we found out that 17% of marriages are happily married. And Angel and I were devastated. And we committed as a couple, before we die, our goal is to move that needle just some, 17.001. And I can't do it by myself. And Angel and I are like, how are we going to do it? And we said, we're going to dedicate our lives to giving our time away so that other couples learn how to do relationships well, and they can give that away. They can teach their children how to do relationships well. If parents do conflict and communication well in the house, children are going to learn how to do conflict and communication. And that will break that generational curse. When you deal with dysfunction, you deal with a minimum of 3 generations of dysfunction. When you break dysfunction, you break it for at least 3 generations after you. If I can do nothing else in my life, Angel and I have chose to break dysfunction for our daughter, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. We may never meet them, but this is a gift I can give them. My daughter knows how to communicate. My daughter knows how to do conflict. My daughter knows how to process her emotions. And that is a very intentional thing that Angel and I chose to do because we both came from very dysfunctional upbringings. And we said, it ends with us. And we want to make every breath that we take have an impact on this world. And that's the only reason I even want to do this, is because if I can reach somebody that's struggling in relationship and give them an ounce of hope, give them a way that they can do relationship in a way that fulfills them. Marriage is hard work. Most people want a beautiful body, but they don't want to hit the gym. They don't want to eat right. They don't want to get the sleep. They don't want to get the nutritional, but they're like, why can't I have a beautiful body? It's the same thing with a relationship. Your relationship takes a lot of hard work. If you're not willing to work, your relationship will fail. And that's the hardest thing, I think, for people to understand. They think, well, we love each other. If we get married, it's just going to work. No, it's not. It only works if you do the work. And it's hard work and hard work and hard work. And if you do all the hard work up front, later on in life, you don't have to work as hard. Angel and I can resolve a conflict 5 minutes. Why? Because we've resolved thousands. The first ones, 3 hours. But it's the practice and it's the dedication that we will not resolve this. And we take a time out. We step away. We come back together. We pray. Most people will pray to God for what they want, but I want God in my disagreements. Because when you do weddings, and I do, you know that, did yours, it's a covenant of 3. It's between you, God, and your spouse. But I also say it's 4 because it's you, it's God, you, your wife, and the relationship. The relationship is the 4th being of it used to be a trio, now it's a quartet. That relationship has needs, it has desires, it has wants, it needs feeding, it needs care. And if you ignore that relationship and you don't treat that as a living being, as something in between you, it dies. And just if you don't feed yourself, you don't take care of yourself, you're going to die sooner than you should have. So that's the hard part of relationships, but that's the cool part of it. Because once you get doing it well, marriage is the greatest thing that I've ever done. And being an intentional father, especially of a daughter, because as her father, I own her self-worth. own her self-image. I own her self-esteem. I own how she views a way that she'll allow a man to treat her. I also create her view of the Heavenly Father through her earthly father. I've raised my daughter that I'm your dad, God is your father. I will fall short. I am not perfect. I will make mistakes, but it is essential for me that my daughter knows that she's loved, she's cared for, her daddy will fight for her. And whatever she needs, I'm willing to do it, even when it inconveniences me, even when I want to get mad, even when I want to take out my frustration on her. One of the assignments before they took break for school, they asked all the students to write down what you appreciate about the other students in class. And there were 28 of them. And on 26 of the 28 that Brooke got, it said, I love your confidence. That to me was one of the coolest gifts I got as a father. Because I'm like, Angel goes, you're doing a good job. And it's hard because I never want my daughter to have a scar from her dad. I know she will, but I know the Heavenly Father will fix that scar. And all I can do is try to love her in a way that lets her know, even though I'm flawed, I give you everything I have. And I've even had a conversation with her. I said, Brooke, I've never been the dad. And I think she was 6 then. I said, I've never been the dad of a 6-year-old before. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure it out. If daddy makes a mistake, please tell me. It's never my intent to hurt you. And I got that from a TED Talk I was watching on conflict. And it was so powerful.
What was her response?
She's like, Daddy, you're a great daddy. I love the way that I love having you as my dad. And I'm just like, I was vulnerable to my daughter telling her, I don't know how to be the dad of a 6-year-old. I've never done this.
Did she ever call you out at a young age if you did do something because she felt comfortable saying it?
She would, yeah.
Well, maybe it was 5 years later or something. Did she ever call you out on a moment that you remember?
Oh yeah, she'll call me out all the time.
Such as? What's something that you did? I got to hear this.
Wow. If I'm embarrassing her in front of her friends, she likes to call me out. She's like, Dad, or we'll be going to pick up her friends. She's like, Daddy, please don't play that song. Because I pick music just to harass her when we're in the car. But she likes me being goofy. And it was funny because Angel told her, Mommy doesn't have the right to raise her voice and talk to you when she's mad. And she was yay high. And she told her, if Mommy raises her voice, say, Mommy, you're not allowed to talk to me that way, and walk away. So Angel came home and she was frustrated one day and she started raising her voice to Brooke. And she goes, Mommy, you're not allowed to talk to me that way, and I'm going to walk away. I lost it. And Angel can be intimidating when she gets angry, but a little 5-year-old telling her mom, you don't have the right to talk to me that way. I'm going to walk away. And that is cool when you have a child that knows her voice matters and that her opinion matters. And everything that I do, I include her in. Do you think this is a good decision? Do you think we should do this? We're doing business ventures. I have her in every meeting so that she knows what it's like when she grows up and what she can do as an adult. There are no boundaries. If you choose to do something and you put your mind to it, you can do it. And I've taught her from young age, I'm going to talk to you like an adult. If you don't understand something, I need you to ask me a question. She's like, okay. So then I'd test it out. I'd say something I knew she wouldn't understand, and she didn't call me out. I go, you know what I'm talking about? She goes, I have no idea. I said, that's what Daddy wants you to ask. I said, I want to be able to just talk to you. If you don't understand something, please ask me. Now as we talk, I'll be talking along. She's like, yeah, Daddy, I don't know what that means. Will you tell me? So I stop and explain to her. It's the coolest gift that I can just talk to my daughter. And she has the wherewithal to say, she's comfortable enough. She can be vulnerable and go, Daddy, I don't get it. Can you explain it to me? I'm like, sure. And it's a really cool opportunity. But I, as a kid, would never do that to my parents. I was told children were to be seen and not heard. I was taught my voice doesn't matter. I teach my daughter that her voice matters. When she was a baby and everybody said, oh, just let her cry it out. She'll sleep through the night if she does that. I had to do the research. Okay, what's the pros and cons of both sides? And if you let your baby cry it out, you tell your child your voice doesn't matter. And so Angel and I sacrificed sleep and the ease of allowing her to cry it out so that we could get a better night's sleep. And we said, no, I want my daughter to always know her voice matters. I don't care what we have to sacrifice. And that's what we chose to do. And my daughter's voice has always mattered, and it always will. If you can give your child a gift, give them that gift.
You're working on a book called The Business of Relationships, where it compares relationships, not compares, but it aligns building a relationship that's healthy, just like building a healthy business. How would you articulate what the book's about?
So when I first started thinking about the book, I said, what do we spend most of our time doing? Working. We know what it's like to be wherever we're employed at. And there's a structure to doing that. And I started thinking about relationships from the context of business. If you want to get a job, people tell you what you have to do. Hey, you got to get the qualifications. You got to go do an interview. You'll probably have the probationary period where they can get rid of you. And then once you get hired, then you're there. And there's processes that happen in that. So I started thinking of the phases of relationships, and the prep phase for a relationship. Most people ask me, how do you marry the right person? And I'm like, that's an easy answer. You have to become the right person. So the prep for being in a relationship is to deal with all your hurts, habits, hangups, and issues so that you don't bring those into the relationship. You only attract people who are as mentally healthy as you are. And when I do premarital, I'll ask the couple, I'll ask one of them, I'll be having that conversation over that topic. And I say, would you marry somebody who's as emotionally healthy as you are? And if they tell me no, I said, who you're marrying is as emotionally healthy as you are. So you either need to pause and do the work to correct any of those scars that you have, past relationships, and really deal with that. So the prep phase for dating is compared to the prep set phase for getting the job you want. If you want to be a doctor, well, that's a whole lot of school. So preparing yourself and really understanding and learning how to communicate, learning how to do conflict resolution, practice on your friends, practice on your family. They are going to be on your side no matter what. And just tell them, hey, I'm going to practice something with communication. You willing to work on that with me? I want to do active listening. Can we practice that? So practice like you're trying to get the job you want. If you want the spouse you want, you better know what you're qualified to get. If you're coming in with a whole lot of emotional, unhealthy issues, you have unresolved conflict, you have resentments, you have relationships where they failed, you're not talking to your family, I'd say go resolve all that first. If you don't take the time to do that, you're not going to be successful in the relationship, because the other person that you're attracted to will be that way. Somebody who's in active addiction is going to attract somebody who is codependent or has some other issues where they're willing to put up with something that somebody who's emotionally healthy would not be attracted to an addict. The first time they drove drunk home, the first time they woke up, can't even go to work the next day because they're hungover. Somebody who's emotionally healthy is going to go, that's not good behavior. I don't want to be around it. So the prep for the relationship you want is really investing in yourself so that you are the best person to attract somebody who's emotionally healthy. And I think the interview phase is dating.
Let's do a simple version of The Business of Relationships, the book you're writing. Who is the book for, and how does business and relationship have a relationship from what you've processed in your life experience? And can you tie it back to when the idea came?
Sure. When I first thought about the book, my thought process was, how do I get men interested in reading a book about marriage? It's not a topic that most men are going to go, wow, I can't wait to read a book about women's emotions. And so I really just kind of mulled over, what do men know the most about? The work they do. Most men identify themselves with the work they do. So I said, let me see how I could get men interested in reading relationship books. And if I structured it around something that they'd spend 40 to 80 hours a week doing, and I can get them interested in approaching a relationship like they do their job. Because most people take pride in the work they do and they get benefit out of it, but they don't view their relationship with that same intentionality. So the thought process was, how do I get a man to want to pick up a book about relationships? And as I started thinking through the process, I said, well, even somebody who's a stay-at-home mom, they have a job. They go through the same process. They think about the same things in the same way. So the relationship between the two is taking something that you know and taking something that you probably haven't thought about as much. How does my relationship function in a good way? And if I can structure it in a way that allows you to line, this is how I do my job, this is how I do my relationship. And if I can rinse and repeat my job to my relationship, it's probably going to make it a little bit easier than trying to say, okay, let me introduce this foreign concept, DNA of relationships. We've done that. I've taught on it. It's a foreign concept, and it's not, oh, let me pick it up and I can just do this because it's what I already do. So the actual process of doing the relationship can be aligned very similar to business. One thing that you do in every job you're in, you get a performance evaluation. In marriage, how many people stop and take a yearly assessment of how did we do last year? How many people in their relationship set goals for what they're supposed to achieve the next year? Every job I've ever done, they're like, here's your goals, go hit it. I know what I'm shooting for in my job. I don't always know what I'm shooting for in my relationship unless I become intentional and say, hey, let me do this in a way that's structured, that allows me to understand how am I performing as a husband. And one of my VPs in HR told me a long time ago, she goes, feedback is just what somebody else needs from you. It's not a personal criticism. And in relationship, if you give your wife a safe space to say, you missed the mark this year, you really underperformed. My needs weren't met. You weren't present when you were home. I really don't like the way that you've been talking to me. And here's what I'd like to set for a goal for next year. Let's both work towards that goal. You know where you're headed. In relationship, you just do it. I come home, my wife's there. Yep, we're in relationship. We just do the day-to-day and we forget about it.
If you're a guy and you're not necessarily in a place where you're wanting to work on yourself, and you feel like you can just kick the ball down the road, what would you say to that guy that you feel like could benefit from your knowledge and your teachings and your concepts of introducing this into his life and pursuing this knowledge in this fashion? What would you say to that person?
I think it'd be a cool conversation and I'd love to have it. But I think it'd really be, if you really want to have a home life that you enjoy, because most people enjoy their work. A lot of people don't, but once you find something that you enjoy doing and you feel comfortable and you do it over and over again, wouldn't it be cool if your relationship ran very similar to how your work life ran? And you actually get to influence and control that if you follow this structure. It gives you a simple, easy process that you can pick up. It tells you here's a performance evaluation example. Here's a peace plan example. Here's things that you can fill out and implement in your house that gives you the ability to do things in a way that you do in business. My wife and I are both in leadership, and we tend to know from the top what that looks like and why we do what we do organizationally. And being able to give people who may not be in leadership, may not be in the executive position, elevating them to the CEO of your home, elevating your spouse to the COO of the home, and really just helping to align roles and responsibilities. Most couples argue about the daily chores. If you take the time to write them out, assign roles and responsibilities. Every employee I've ever had, they have roles and responsibilities, and they know what's expected of them. And the 1 Minute Manager is one of the coolest books for anybody in management. It says you can't hold somebody to an expectation they don't know. Many spouses have expectations that they've never voiced to their spouse. I'm holding a set of expectations in my head that you have no idea about. And now you're going along life, think you're doing great, and I'm mad. You're like, dude, what's wrong with you? Why are you mad at me? You never, or you always, the two words I don't like to use, you never do this. You're like, what are you talking about? I do that all the time. If I'm in my head, you know, Cam needs to call me every day and he doesn't. And I've never said, Cam, I need you to call me every day. And you don't call me for 2 weeks. When you call me, I'm irritated. I don't have conversation with you. I'm not in a relationship with you. I'm mad. If your spouse doesn't want you to call them at work, say, babe, I can't take calls at work. Angel and I have a system. If she calls me and I don't answer and she texts me and I don't answer, she'll ping my watch. That tells me it's an emergency. When I'm in counseling, I just can't stand up and be like, hey, let me take this text. That's kind of rude. But if my phone dings or my watch dings, I know that there's an emergency that I have to attend to, and she never abuses that. I know what the expectation is. She knows she can get a hold of me even when I'm in a counseling session if there's an emergency. But if we never talked about that, she would sit there and go, oh my God, there's an emergency. How do I get my husband? I'm just going to keep calling his phone. I don't answer my phone. I don't even look at my phone during a counseling session. So really just, I want to get men excited about marriage. I want to get men excited about, I can do this because it's a structure I can follow. And in organizations doing manufacturing, there's Six Sigma and there's Lean. And it's how do you make things the most efficient? How do you remove steps that are unnecessary? What is the core problem and how do we solve it? And it's a systematic process. And if you follow through the process, it's an easy way to eliminate problems. The only healthy conflict avoidance that I like is when you address miscommunications or missed expectations at the time they occur. And if you go back to the roles and responsibilities, and I know my job is to take out the garbage. And I've had a bad day, things are hurting, and I go to Angel, I can't take out the garbage tonight. Will you do that for me? I'll make it up to you. She knows, I know that's my expectation. I've communicated, I just can't do it tonight. Will you do that for me? That makes it a lot easier than her in her head thinking, oh, husband's supposed to take out the trash. He's not doing it. He's being lazy. I wish he would do that. Why doesn't my husband do what he needs to? If I know that's my job and I ask for grace and mercy and, hey, can you do it for me? I do it. Why? That also tells her she has the ability to ask me when she doesn't have it. Now we both know each other's expectations. And you don't have a problem asking a colleague at work, hey man, I'm slammed. Can you help me with this? They're like, sure, I'll help you out. But at home, we often don't do that because it's like, well, that's your job. Well, I thought that was your job. And they never communicate it. And they just go around mad at each other thinking that both of them are taking advantage. So it's really just giving you a systematic way to run your relationship so that it's healthy, that it's effective. Most people don't have budgets. And if you are an investor and you go look over a business and you're like, hey, let me see your financials. They're like, yeah, we don't have any. Well, how do you know you're going to be able to make payroll? Well, we just kind of hope every Friday that we have enough money in the business account to cover it. I wouldn't invest a dime. Most marriages are running around without a budget. We hope we can make it. Be systematic. Run your house the way a business is run, and you'll find a lot more household success. So it gives you a way to be successful with a blueprint that you can follow and then customize for how do I make this work in my house?
How would you drive the argument of someone thinking like, how would you respond to someone that feels like approaching a relationship like a business, giving them a sense of anxiety or fear that they don't own their own business, they don't want to be in business? Why should I treat my relationship like business if it's that word just gives them that feeling of, that's not my lane, I just want to go to work. Like, what would you say to those people that just want to go to work in their relationship?
I'd say, who's running your business at home then? If you don't run it, who's in charge? You don't have a flat organization. You don't have just workers. I can't open a business, just to stick 2 employees in there and say, be successful. You're setting your marriage up for failure. And my entire goal is to make marriages more successful. And I would challenge anyone that wants to just be a worker bee in their relationship, that I hope your spouse is really, really comfortable at running the business for you. Either you run it, your wife runs it, or it's going to fall apart. I've never seen a successful business that had no leadership.
Just wanted to take a quick break from the episode. Hope you're enjoying it. I would love to help revolutionize your relationship. I will be releasing The Business of Relationships, and you can get your copy on pre-order. If you want to click below, give me your information. I will alert you as soon as the book is ready. I'm working really hard to compile my 18 years of experience of studying relationships and my 30 years of business experience to help get this together in a way that makes sense, that you can build your relationship, prepare yourself for a relationship, interview the candidates for your marriage, and then successfully run a business household that allows your relationship to succeed in a way that it never would without this framework. Hope you're enjoying.
What should the person watching this ask themselves to figure out if they should be in charge or if they should be a worker bee?
Who's the CEO of your home?
And what if they don't know? What should they ask their partner or themselves?
I think it's a good conversation. I pose it to you. Who's the CEO of your home?
Me?
Yeah.
Me.
Why?
Because I like to make decisions.
Is Ariana all right with it?
Yeah, as long as I involve her. And I, of course, always approach it with, it's a we thing, not a me thing. And usually it's like we get to that road of, hey, let's do this and this. What do you think about it? Whatever you think's best. Or if it's something every now and then she's passionate about, she'll voice her reason, or I'll tell her up front, I feel like I don't even know where to go here. Do you have any thoughts? And usually between the both of us, we have some sort of confidence, but majority of the time I'm leading, but that's just our dynamic. But there are some areas where, I feel like everyone has their own unique way. There's just some areas I know I'm like, I'm going to let her take charge because she likes to be in control in some areas. We're both kind of control freaks in our own lanes. But when it comes to day-to-day life, it's probably more me.
In our house, I'm the CEO and I'm the CFO. Angel is the COO. She runs operations. If you want to get on our calendar, don't waste your time texting me. I don't get involved in the family calendar. I don't get involved in operations. I don't get involved in what schedule Brooke has. I don't run day-to-day operations. That is not my lane. It's the most freeing thing that I've ever done in my life. I don't have to worry about it at all. Angel tells me this is where you need to be. This is what you've got to do. Hey, I want to do this. Do we have anything on the calendar?
So when I send you a calendar invite, Angel can see?
Angel knows immediately when you send me a calendar invite. Angel knows before you send me the calendar invite because I've already cleared the time is okay. I don't do anything without going to operations.
Oh, nice.
It's not my lane.
Yeah.
I don't do it.
It's
Don't
a
care.
complete line.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it works amazingly. When it comes to financial decisions, I know the answer. Why? Because I have a budget.
Is there a chapter in the book that defines roles?
Yes.
Like COO, CFO for someone that wouldn't. Okay. Well,
Absolutely.
I have questions for that, but we'll get there. What are you the most excited about and why?
I'm most excited that I finally get to bring it to life. It's been on my heart for over 10 years, if not longer. It's long overdue. I finally get to bring my vision to life. I've had this in my head, and through 17 years of doing premarital counseling, doing marriage counseling, doing individual counseling, I've learned that I can help a lot of people avoid counseling. I can help people avoid divorce for reasons that are unnecessary. people tell me, well, I fell out of love. And I ask them, how many times a week do you sit down and have relationship conversations? And they're like, well, we talk about it all the time. Like, what do you talk about? Who's going to pick up the kids? Who's going to do this? The largest divorce statistic is empty nesters. They spend 25 years running around with the kids doing operational communication, but they never stop and have that knee-to-knee relationship communication. One of the parts of the checkup is there anything I'm doing as a husband that you don't like? Is there anything I'm not doing as a husband that you'd like me to do? Are all of your needs being met? Is there any dreams that you have that I'm not aware of? Is there something you'd like to do in the next year or the next 5 years that we can make happen together? When you stop and really just be intentional about your relationship, you can actually have a good marriage. The difference between a good marriage and a bad marriage is this much. It's very, very small, subtle changes that can allow you to be successful. And really just giving people the confidence that they can go into marriage and they can succeed. I've done thousands of couples for premarital, and there's no book that you get when you walk down the aisle that says, here's how to do your marriage. And that's not okay. I know when you take a baby home, there's no book that says this is how to be a parent, because they never handed me one when we had it. We had to figure it out. Angel and I took a lot of time and were very intentional to figure it out. I want our hard lessons to be an easy lesson for others. We did the hard work, learn from us, follow it, make it better. And once somebody's running their house the way that Business of Relationships says to run your house, and their friends go, wow, your house is running great. What are you doing? Hey, here's what we did. And they can hand them a copy and go do this, and you'll have a good marriage. And that is what excites me the most, is I can actually influence more people than the people I can actually meet with. If I could spend 24 hours a day meeting with couples, I would, because I really want people to have a good marriage. I can't do that. I need my sleep. But this will give me the ability to reach people, and then they can go, hey, this is what we can do. And where there's issues that need greater intervention, go see a counselor. A counselor is just like a consultant for a business. Hey, we need an outside third party, unobjective, to really look at this and tell us what's going on. It's not as people treat marriage that it's just something that happens. And it's not. And this book really excites me because it will get people to be intentional and get them to know how to actually do it without going, cool, let me just read this. Okay, resolve conflict. How do I do that? I wasn't taught that in my house. How do I resolve conflict? And I think one of the biggest breakthroughs that Angel and I found was internal processor and verbal processor. And most couples don't even know that concept. I am as internal processor as the day is long. If Angel wants to talk to me about a problem, I cannot talk my way through the problem. So I'm an internal processor. And when Angel has something that she wants to talk to me about, she's like, hey, I'm mad at you because you didn't take the trash out. And I'm like, okay. She goes, is that all you have to say? I'm like, yeah. I need to think about it. Why didn't I take the trash out? What was going on? Why did I miss something that I know is my obligation? I go in my head and I'm doing that. And if she's talking to me, I can't organize my thoughts in a way that I can communicate to her. Angel's a verbal processor by the textbook definition. If I ever get a verbal processor in the dictionary, I'm putting her picture next to it. She wants to talk about it immediately. She wants to talk about it in detail. She wants to resolve it that moment by talking. I can't do that. And we struggled with that for probably the first year and a half of our marriage. She's like, you're avoiding the problem. And one day I'm like, if you just stop talking, we'll resolve it. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, give me 5 minutes. She went away for 5 minutes, came back, and I was able to verbally process through. And she's like, so you're not avoiding conflict? I'm like, no, I just need a minute to organize my thoughts. And that's where we came up with verbal processor and internal processor. And then later we read it in a book, and I'm like, well, that would have been helpful. And every couple that I've ever met with, it's been one internal processor and one verbal processor. One was 2 internal processors, and I'm like, you guys are in trouble. You're never going to resolve anything, because an internal processor will resolve everything in their head, have the entire conversation, and never involve their spouse. And it is as real a concept as there is, but most people don't know about that. I get to introduce people to concepts that I've learned either the hard way or through 17 years of studying relationships. I got a lot of information in my head that I've gathered from a lot of sources, and I want to consolidate it in a way and in a framework that allows people to gain a lot of information in a short period of time and be able to implement it. I don't want to just give you the how. I don't want to give you the why or the thing to do. I want to give you the how to do it. And this book is really going to be about, this is what I want you to do. This is how you can do it. And then take that and modify it in a way that works for you. I'll give you the framework. You can do it. You can follow it. It's easy to follow, but you really just have to go, I like this, but I want to tweak that. It's your relationship. Tweak it. I'm not giving you the 1,000% how to do it. I'm giving you, this is how you start. And then if you want to change it, change it. That's all relationship is a whole bunch of hard conversations. And my going on 18 years now of studying relationships, if you ask me to boil it down to what is a successful relationship, it is nothing but hard conversations over and over and over again.
How does faith and family blend into this book?
I want to write this book from a perspective that anyone can pick it up, whether they have faith or not. Everything that I'm going to introduce is for secular and for faith-based. I come from a faith-based position, but this isn't a book to convert people to Christianity. It's a book to teach people, even if you don't believe in God, even if you have no relationship with a higher being, you're still going to be able to function in a relationship. There is a different element, and I will expound on the elements that if you're faith-based, read these. If you're not, a lot of the faith-based stuff is very similar in relationships. So anyone who's secular will be able to read the book and do it. If you choose to read the faith-based parts, those will be additional parts of the book. That is a choice to read. It's not a mandatory. So speaking of the internal and verbal processor, I know that we walked you through that. How has that impacted your relationship, and what have you noticed from using it?
The unlock was the understanding of the concept and realizing that they're there. I feel like the internals know that they're internal and the externals know that they're external, but they don't understand that people are different, and that what is the statistic for the chances of you dating and meeting and marrying the opposite? How many couples do you think you've counseled over the last 18 years, 14 years, whatever it is?
18 years, probably. It's got to be close to 1,000.
And how many of them are opposite?
900. Well, they're all opposite. There's only been one that were 2 internal processors. But differences is what makes relationship work. And you don't get attracted to someone who is the same as you. And during the dating phase, you focus on every way that you're similar. When you get married, you focus on every way that you're different. And the true strength of a relationship is your difference. The internal processor's job is to call a timeout because they need time to process. The verbal processor's job is to ensure that the conflict gets resolved. And it's the differences in Angel and I that make us successful. We don't fight about, I need you to do it my way. We figure out what is our strengths, and we work to our strengths. I can travel the globe by myself. I can get in a rental car in a foreign country, and I can get myself anywhere. If you put Angel in the car with me, I am the dumbest man alive. I'm like, which way do I turn out of the parking lot? Which way do I do? Angel has 9 offices around the valley. She knows everywhere around the valley. I instantly lose my ability to navigate my way out of a parking lot when my wife's in the car. When we travel, Angel's traveled the world by herself for work. She's competent. She can do it. If you put Angel in an airport with me, she doesn't do anything but follow my feet. And because she doesn't have to think, she doesn't have to worry. She knows my husband will get me exactly where I need to be. So she just says, I just follow your feet. Why? She doesn't have to be strong in that area. When you get comfortable using the strength of your partner, it's okay to let go of certain areas. That's where the true strength in marriage comes from. When you're willing to let go and say, I don't have to do this because I have somebody to share the workload with.
Circle me back to the question now.
So how has the internal processor, verbal processor concept work in your relationship, and what has it done for your relationship?
It took it from a college level algebra was every conflict to like kindergarten math. It just, everything is just easy all of a sudden because you can see and understand what your partner is feeling in a, how would you describe like that moment when you both realize there's something going on and you both need to like look out for each other in that moment? How would you describe that like energy exchange?
I think if you truly value the relationship more than you value being right, and you truly value your partner and understand, I know Angel loves me. There's nothing in anything that she's ever done that has told me she doesn't love me.
That's what it is. I feel like it gives a moment where it sounds corny when I say it, but like there's like a moment of like, okay, there's love in the area, even when there's conflict. You can see that almost like as a third person in the room and be like, okay, let's actually look to that. Let's drain the love tank a little bit eventually, whether it's 3 seconds or 3 hours or 3 minutes, whatever. But it's just taken every single, bump in the road in our relationship and just turned it on its head where we can stare at it, look at it, poke at it, and then be like, you want to go this way or this way? Let's go that way. Okay, cool. Let's fix it, squash it, move on, whatever. Where in the past, like since I've learned who's the internal and who's the external and how that works and how they work together, I have not gone to bed thinking about a problem that we've had. Literally has never it's not happened once. Because when the external, really what it is when the external processors learn to shut up, aka me, things go pretty smooth. You talk your way into trouble more than whatever the opposite of that is. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Is that a good response?
It's really good. And I tell the internal processors, everything that we do in our head, the verbal processor does with their mouth.
Yes.
And we just don't do it until we've organized it. And then when you're ready to verbally process, we can verbally process with you. Mm-hmm. It prepares us for the battle. But I also want people to understand conflict is the workout for your relationship. Conflict is something that is in every relationship because of the fact we're two different people. We view the world differently. We view things differently. We think differently. That doesn't mean that's a problem. Most people are taught that conflict is a scary monster because it's yelling, it's screaming, it's a fight, because the internal processor is mean. The first thing that comes across your head is not a kind word. As an internal processor, if I say the first things that come to my head, they are ruthless. But it's okay that I have those thoughts inside my head. And I always joke that I go from I want to hurt you to it's all my fault in a matter of minutes. Because when I first do, I'm like, all right, Angel, you're the source of all my problem. Everything you've done makes me mad. I can't stand you. I want a divorce. I don't even want to look at you for the rest of your life too. Yeah, I probably did that wrong. And then when we sit down and talk, that angry, that unnecessary, that first wave of emotion, it's fine. I don't care that I think it. I care that I don't say it. And that is the coolest thing when you're able to just go through that thought pattern and you don't have to say hurtful things, because that's not what I mean. It's just the first thing that comes to my head. It's unfiltered. It's raw. That should not come out of my mouth. So take the time. Think about it. Get to it as, yeah, what did I do wrong?
And I think the the value beyond this that needs to be acknowledged is like, yeah, it for an external processor like me, I'm like, why do you need that time to think if I don't? But then I've realized when you get in intense situations where critical thinking is key, there's a lot of moments where I can't like step away from like wanting to talk about it, but not everything you run into in life you have time to talk about or have the ability to talk about with someone. And to have someone there that can internally have that conversation with themselves in a way that you can't as being an external processor. I've noticed there's scenarios where Ariana will be like, what if we did that? And I'm like, what? Like, I would have had to have a 3-hour conversation to that come up to that resolution. So there is like, as an external processor, having to be quiet for a second. There are situations where there is serious power in being quiet and having that ability where that is the reaction for an external processor. That's not your reaction. And it sometimes feels like you have this power because you can respond right away.
In the Dr. Gottman, who's been studying relationships for 40 years, he has a lab at the University of Washington. He studies everything from cortisol levels to heart rates to he'll take urine samples and see what chemicals are present. And he found that when your heart rate goes above 100 beats per minute, oxygen starts to leave your brain and it goes to your hands for fight or flight. When oxygen leaves your brain, your prefrontal cortex shuts down, which is decision-making, judgment, and impulse control. At the time that you're at that, the oldest you can act is 13.
So you're telling me when I get hot-headed trying to talk about something, all the oxygen left my brain and I'm now a 13-year-old?
You're probably more of a 7 to 10-year-old. And I don't want a 7 or 10-year-old solving any of my marital problems. So it is scientifically proven, and he'll go when people's heart rates go above 100 beats per minute, he'll go in and say, oh, we're having a technical problem. Let me solve that. And he watches the heart rates until they drop below. And in that time, he notices there's more humor, there's more collaboration, and there's more togetherness just by him interrupting when your heart rate goes above 100 beats per minute. So if you feel yourself escalating, you say, whoa, I need to take a time out because I don't want a 7 or 10-year-old solving my marriage problem. They're not equipped. Their brains are not capable of it. And judgment, decision-making, and impulse control are 3 things I really want to have when I'm having a conversation with my wife.
That is crazy. If you have 2 internals or 2 externals and they process the same way from a psychological level, is it possible for them to work together if they're both aware of it? And if they could, what does that look like? Or do you think that it necessarily is not a good idea that you would advise leaning into? Or is there an exception if they know?
I think the reason that internals and verbals come together is because there's a difference. And as an internal processor, I will do more information in my head than externally. So I'm attracted to somebody who will talk to me to get me to talk. And there's a study done by, I think it was a Swedish university, where they took college kids and they took their t-shirts and they gave them to members of the opposite sex. And they did a finding that showed people with certain immune deficiencies are attracted to a partner who has those strengths in that area. I think it's the way we're designed to be attracted, because if you think of a species continuing on, you want to have a child that has the greatest chance of survival. So if I'm attracted to somebody who has the similar qualities as me and the similar traits scientifically, it's not going to be as attractive because my species is not going to exist. Because now what I'm creating is more vulnerable because they're only strong in a certain area. So I think from a scientific approach, we're attracted to differences without even consciously knowing it.
That couple that you did have, the one rare one, that were they both internal?
Yes.
Did they stay together?
I don't know. I haven't stayed with them, but they did get married. But the problem with two internal processors, if you have two internal processors, they're going to, okay, I felt hurt last night when you said this. If they even say it. Because most of the time they'll think it in their head and they'll never actually get around to having the conversation.
They just tend to push off problems and just almost like stuff it under a rug, under the mattress.
They each solve it in their own head, and then they never have the follow-up conversation.
That creates the relationship.
That creates the relationship and actually resolves the conflict.
So the overarching thing is that the communication that's forced normally by the external is the part that builds the relationship. And that's why it's so hard to have two of the same.
Yeah. And if you have two verbals, they're not going to stop. Verbal processors just want to talk and they're just going to escalate and that's going to be a fight. If a verbal processor is willing to call a timeout to allow both of you to have your emotions come down, get your heart rate back down. If they say, hey, I want to talk about this, and you start talking and it gets escalated and one goes, timeout, and you each go and you write down your contribution to the disagreement and you come back together, the natural process of writing down your contribution to the disagreement will get you focused on what you really want to talk about. And Angel will tell you as she writes hers down, she starts crossing off things that are worth talking about because it's just something she was processing. So when we come back together, the conversation is more pinpointed to the actual problem than to all the verbal processing that would get to the problem. It can work. It's just more difficult. And it's not typical to be attracted to the same as what you are. That's why it's so common that it's an internal and a verbal. It works because it works for the reason. The internal will call the timeout. They need that time, but the ability to want that time and have the freedom to call a timeout allows them to know they're safe. They don't feel threatened that they have to talk their way through a problem when they can't. That is the safest thing that you can give to an internal processor. The best gift an internal processor can give to the verbal processor is I'm going to give you time to actually get down in emotion and figure out what is it that we really need to talk about. Then when you come back together, that conversation is a conflict resolution focused conversation. And I tell people if during that conversation another topic comes up, that means it's unresolved. Tell your partner, hey, let me write that down. We'll talk about it when we're done, but let's finish this problem first. And then if that problem needs time for the internal processor to think about, hey, that came up. Yeah, give me 5 minutes. You're already in that processing mode and that conflict resolution mode, so you'll process quicker. You can come down and sit and solve that next problem. If you don't have the energy after that problem, say, hey, let's talk about it tomorrow. The verbal processor will make sure that conversation happens tomorrow.
They don't forget.
Yeah. If you leave it to the internal processor, they're going to be like, I solved it in my head. We're good. Let's move on.
Yeah.
So that's the cool dynamic of it once you figure out how to make it work. But two of the same could make it work. You just have to have one to fill the role that isn't naturally there when you're both the same type of processors.
For me, the concept of how there is an internal and an external processor was the unlock that I specifically in my relationship needed to overcome the things I was struggling with that led me to marriage from a state of like a happy heart and a good place and an all-knowing 100% confidence and made me excited about marriage. What would you describe it as after you've counseled so many couples? Is that a large unlock for a majority of them, or is that a subsector of them?
I think it's probably one of the easiest aha moments for couples.
How often does it happen, aha moment? Is it a 9 out of 10 that you counsel?
At least.
Really?
If not 10 out of 10.
Really?
Because anybody who's not familiar with that concept or has not put words to the concept, most verbal processors think internal processors are conflict avoidant. I am not conflict avoidant in any way, shape, or form. I am willing to have any conflict if you let me organize my thoughts.
100%.
Verbal processors are often viewed by internal processors as bullies because you feel bullied when you can't think and you're just hammering down on me with words. I shrink. I've had a conversation with Angel where she wouldn't stop talking. And I said, my brain is physically shutting down. You have to stop talking. It is not a made up concept. I've done way too much field research on myself on this. My brain will shut down. And I have absolutely no thought whatsoever, to the point that I'm just like, I don't even know if I can drive my car at this point. My brain's completely shut off. And I just sat there in my car and did nothing until my brain started to go, okay, it's a safe space. We can actually think now. But if you're a verbal processor, you're like, why can't you just talk? What's wrong with you? Well, there's nothing wrong with me. That's the way I'm made. And it's for a good reason. It's helpful in the relationship. But at church, the pastor calls it combat boots and tennis shoes. And I hate that. It's not tennis shoes. I don't run from the problem. It's more like a house coat. I need to put my house coat on and sit down for a minute and just get comfortable. And I'm not running. I really just need to organize my brain. And the worst part of internal processors, and I always use the imagery of a computer, you have all these screens open in your brain. And when the verbal processor comes with their problem, it's like, hey, I don't have that screen open. I got to go X out of all these screens and stop everything that I'm processing already to be able to engage and open up this file that allows me to go through, why'd I hurt you last night? If I don't have that file in front of me, I can't talk about it. And I'm so bad that Angel will ask me any questions about money. And I'm like, I don't have my budget in front of me. I can't answer it. She's like, why can't you answer it? You know the budget, you know it inside and out. I'm like, unless I'm looking at that file, I can't have the conversation. Why? Because I need that to refer to. And as an internal processor, if all my windows are open and you drop a problem in there, I have to stop everything I'm doing. I have to save that file because I don't want to lose the work I've done. Or I'm like 2 seconds from finishing processing that one. I finish it out, I save it, I close it, it's done. I can shut them all down and bring that file up. That's the imagery that I use because that's my brain. I am always processing something. And it's hard to get me to actually verbalize it until I've got to the point that it makes sense to a verbal processor. And verbal processors are not bullies. That's where I use, you're just doing with words what we're doing in our head. And if you heard everything going on in our head, you'd be like, dude, you're just mean. And so it's really just understanding. Internal processors see verbal processors as intense. It's okay. My processing in my brain is really intense. I want to normalize. It's okay that their words are a little harsh to start. Let them process. They're just doing with words what you've already done. Give them the ability to get to the point where they're okay to talk. And then you have the real conversation. Don't get hurt. It's just words. And yes, you can't take back a spoken word, but when Angel's processing, I don't care. Process. If she needs a minute to tell me something, tell it to me. I'm okay. I still got my file open and I'm looking at it. It doesn't hurt. We're good. Keep moving. But that's really where I want verbal processors to understand internal processors are not conflict avoidant. They just need time to engage in the conflict. They want to be prepared for that meeting. Verbal processors are already prepared for the meeting, and it's not fair to have the expectation that I'm prepared just because you are. And Angel has given me permission to say, just because you want to talk about it doesn't mean I'm in a position to be able to have that conversation. Give me the time to be prepared to have that conversation. And when she does that, we have our most productive conversations.
You have an internal and a verbal processor, but I feel like the third element of this, how would you explain what Angel did to me in that one scenario that makes you laugh? Because I feel like it's important for everyone listening to this to understand that this can happen because it caught me off guard. So crazy.
Yeah. You can be a verbal processor and be put into an internal processing position. If you are not prepared for the conversation, at the time that Angel turned you into an internal processor, you knew what it was like to be an internal processor. You didn't have the words to say, That's probably one of the greatest gifts my wife could have ever given you, was to put you into the internal processor mode, because now you're like, oh my God, I can't even talk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's how Ariana feels every time you bring up a problem to her. That cat deer in the headlights, like, I don't have the words to talk right now. And I can verbally process. If it's something that I'm comfortable with, if it's something I already know, I can be a verbal processor and turn Angel into an internal processor. It's not you are 100% of the time. It's just your natural tendency. I naturally tend to be the internal processor. I can verbally process anything as long as it's not about me. It's very specific to that area. And the psychologist that runs our practice, he's like, you're an internal processor? I'm like, yeah, when it comes to me. I'm like, everything else I can verbally process. So, but it's just that interpersonal conflicts that turns me into a verbal internal processor, because I need to think. Even when I'm doing counseling sessions, I tell people, I just need a minute to think. And they're okay with that, because sometimes I do have to internally process what's the right way to get the information I want from this person. If I just keep talking, I'm just talking, and I don't want to do that to them. I take the minute I need, and I'm just like, okay, this is what I heard. This is what I'm thinking about. Okay, now I can put it into the words I want. So just because you're a verbal processor doesn't mean you can verbally process in every situation. If it's something you're not prepared to talk about, you may need a minute. If Angel comes home and she's nitpicking about things around the house, I'm like, wow, babe, something's really bothering you. What's going on? Angel can't verbally process at that time. She goes upstairs and turns into an internal processor, and then comes back 30 minutes later and she's like, well, this is really what's going on. And so it's really cool when the verbal processor feels like the internal processor, because now you know exactly what it's like to be us most of our lives. In most situations, we're like, oh, hold up.
Yeah. And for context, Jason's wife, Angel, was talking to me about something I was struggling to wrap my head around. And she pressed on it so hard to a level that I had not been questioned in such a blunt way, that as someone who usually embraces those scenarios, I had no idea what to even say for the first time, I think, in my life, at that level, where I straight up got in the car, drove home, didn't say anything. I was dating her at the time, but my now wife, Ariana, was like, you're not okay. I'm just like, no, I just don't even know what to say. I had just an internal processor now, and this is weird. Like, this does not feel right. Yeah. But it was needed for me to wrap my head around something extremely difficult. But it got me to grow in that area that I needed to get to the goal of marriage where we were going, to do it from a place that I felt like was necessary, which was a place of authenticity and genuine interest in doing it because I wanted to, not because society or someone else, or because you're supposed to, or because I was getting older. I wanted to feel like I was doing it because every time I moved with that level of intent and doing it for me, it always turned into one of the better things in my entire life. And every time I leaned into pressure from other places as a young person, it always would like phase out or bite me in the butt, or I'd have a bunch of problems there. It wouldn't be genuine.
Yeah. And it's really cool watching you grow from the first time we had a conversation and you're like, hey, I think I might want to talk to you about premarital. And I'm like, okay, let's talk. And watching to where you are now, and seeing you change through the relationship and really embrace those concepts. And that's what I want to do through this book to others that I can't sit and talk with, that I can't have at my kitchen table, that I can't have in my counseling office. I want to give you that freedom to really understand, be yourself. I am the greatest asset to our relationship when I'm free and comfortable to be myself. My wife is the greatest asset to our relationship when she's free and comfortable to be herself. My wife is the only person in this world that knows every single one of my flaws, yet chooses to love me. I'm the only person in this world that knows every single one of my wife's flaws, yet I choose to love her. That is the coolest gift of marriage. And I want people to know it's okay to be genuinely who you are. Be an internal processor. That's the way you're made. If you look through DISC personalities, you look through any of the personality types, you don't transfer your personality type. You are what you are. Be what you are. And that is true freedom in marriage. And if you have the ability to run your house in a way that gives you structure to be successful, it gives you more time to have those interpersonal conversations where real relationship happens.
And it's way easier to be yourself. And it's just an ever going loop of what it should look and feel like.
Yeah. You don't make Ariana feel bad because she's an internal processor.
I used to.
You used to. But you know who she is now, and you know why she's doing what she's doing. She knows why you won't stop talking. She's like, okay, he's not mean. He's not badgering me. He just wants to process. And it gives you both freedom to go, my spouse isn't mean. My spouse isn't avoiding talking through this conflict. It gives you the ability to go, oh, that's the way my spouse is made. Be who you are. That starts to create that safe environment and that safe place in relationship where it's okay to be you and have the conversation in a way that's effective. Resolve a conflict. If you don't resolve every single conflict, every single time that it happens, it turns into resentment, and resentment turns into bitterness, and your relationship turns into a place you don't even want to be. And that's not marriage. Marriage is, you know every single flaw I have, and every single day you wake up and choose to love me. That's marriage to me. And that's what gets me passionate about doing a book that gives people the ability to go, this is how we're going to run our house. We're going to spend our marriage working on how do we relate. We as a society have every single means to be able to have connection with other human beings. And we're the most disconnected society that's ever existed. We don't do interpersonal relationships anymore. We do casual relationships. We send a text because it's convenient. We post on social media. In that video with Simon Sinek, he said, call your friend on their birthday. Don't post it on social media so that everybody else sees it. Call them and sing happy birthday. And do something that actually creates connection. If you're spending all your time trying to figure out who's paying the bill, who does this, who does that, that leads to disconnect. Telling your partner, just hammering with words when all they're trying to do is process, creates disconnect. Going, babe, take 5 minutes. I know you're struggling right now. Just think about it. That creates connection. That goes, I love you the way you are. You don't need to be different to gain my love. And you get to take off all these fake masks that you have to put on in society to feel like you fit in. That gives you the freedom to say, it's okay to be me. I'm truly myself because of my wife. She's the first person in this world that ever accepted me exactly as I am. It is the freest and happiest I've ever been at any point in my life because I don't have to be anything I'm not. My wife and my daughter love me exactly the way I am. My friends love me exactly the way I am. They don't expect me to be anything I'm not. That's when I can have true, genuine connection with another human being, is I'm comfortable to be me. I'm comfortable to be awkward in the ways that I'm already awkward, and people embrace me and help me be a better version of myself. That's true connection. I don't want yes men in my life. I want people in my life that are my blind spotters. They say, hey, Jason, this area makes you look bad. Awesome, man. You truly love me because you're willing to tell me I don't look good. You're looking out for my benefit when you do that. That's the gift people give me. That's the gift I give others. And be like, hey, man, I always joke when you first get married, all of your favorite clothes start to disappear as a guy. And I'm like, man, why is my wife hiding my shirt that has a monkey sitting on a toilet? That thing is hilarious. I love it. And she was nice enough to put it in a cabinet and not throw it away or give it away. One day I discovered the cabinet of all treasures that were mine. But I'm like, why are you taking my clothes? And she goes, I want the world to see you in the best light. That shirt doesn't allow people to see you in the best light. When I teach a class, I watch my wife writing notes. After the class, she tells me what I did well, and she tells me, hey, when you said this, it may have been received poorly, Can we try this the next time? My wife's not criticizing me. She's making sure that the people who are sitting in that class see me the way she sees me. She helps me be seen the way she wants the world to view me because my wife loves me, my wife values me, and my wife wants others to see the value in me that she sees in me. That's a great gift, and it is the coolest thing I've ever had in my life, and I want everyone who's married to get to the place where they understand when your spouse is trying to correct you on something, it's probably for your own good. It's not a condemnation of who you are. It's a commitment of love and connection.